everyone, and welcome back to another video. While I haven't made any videos on Queendom 2 since the lineup got announced, I've actually been watching every single episode, and I've really enjoyed watching other people's content that they've made about the show. And since round 2 just ended, I thought it would be really fun to make my own video and talk about what I thought about the cover performances. This video is also going to be a ranking, so I'm going to talk about the performances in the order that I liked them from least to greatest. So the performances that I thought were the worst are going to be talked about first, and my favorites are going to be talked about at the end. And I'll also be grading each performance on a scale of 1 to 10. I feel as if I don't need to give a preface as to like what Queendom 2 is or the groups that are on the show, because if you didn't know, why would you click on this video? And I'm also going to be assuming that everybody watching has seen all of the round 2 performances, so if you haven't, I really suggest you go do so. I don't want to keep you all waiting anymore, so without further ado, let's just get right into the rankings. So in last place, I'm unfortunately gonna have to put VIVIZ, and I think my general feeling about this performance is that it was pretty underwhelming. Compared to the usual VIVIZ or even GFRIEND that I'm used to, the vocals weren't delivering as much as I was expecting them to, and while for most of the teams I did notice a moment or two where the vocals felt a little bit off, I think I noticed it the most with VIVIZ. I think the choreography with the dresses that they were wearing looked pretty cool at times. However, generally I still was kind of wanting more, and I think the dance break was especially weak too. I mean, I understand why it wasn't as powerful as I was wanting it to. Unnatural is one of the most vocally difficult songs I've ever heard, but like, they didn't have to pick Unnatural, and I do think they were sort of setting themselves up with that song choice. The concept was nice, and I did like the few gimmicks that they did have. However, everything that they did wasn't enough to distract me from how weak I felt like their actual performance was. So that's why I ended up putting VIVIZ in last place. So in 5th we have Kepler, and I feel pretty similar about their performance as I do about VIVIZ. I liked the Alice in Wonderland thing that they were going for at the beginning. I thought that was pretty cute, but besides the dance break, which is what probably put them above VIVIZ for me, nothing else was that memorable. I think for the most part the choreography was very lackluster, and in the end I wasn't surprised that they ranked the way that they did. Something about the finale of the performance where they were just kind of spending like 30 seconds walking to the front of the stage felt especially weak to me, and I feel like if I was in the live audience I wouldn't have really been that into it. I feel like it was okay, it wasn't the worst, but it wasn't anywhere near the best, and that's what landed them in the 5th spot. So for WJSN, I think the performance itself was actually pretty good. Yeonjung vocals delivered as always. Yoram's dance break was actually really impressive, I'm super proud of her, and the choreography in general was just stellar. But the reason that I didn't put WJSN higher than I did is because I feel like the stage as a whole didn't really feel very cohesive. I like the whole dark and magical concept that they were going for, but then if they wanted to do that sort of concept, I don't understand why they chose Navalera as their song choice. I appreciate WJSN's attempt at making Navalera their own kind of song, but in the end the entire cover just felt sort of awkward. The melodies and rhythms of the original Navalera are very bright, and those elements of the original song still sort of stood out in their cover, so I wasn't really buying what WJSN were putting down because they were trying to give me dark and mysterious, but I was still getting bright and youthful. And while I'm usually an XE rap defender, her verse in Navalera felt very forced, and I don't think you should ever try to put a rap into a GFRIEND song. I think they would have done a lot better if they just changed the song choice. Maybe I'm just bitter that it's seeming more and more likely that we're not getting an Apple stage, but I do genuinely think that most of the problems that I had with Navalera would have been fixed if they just chose Apple instead, because it would have made their job so much easier. Apple already has a very magical theme to it, and if they chose Apple, they wouldn't have had to make so many different adjustments to the song in order to make it fit their concept. For example, I feel like the instrumental change to the post-chorus dance break in Navalera felt very strange and sort of a downgrade from the original, and ultimately I feel like WJSN landed in this sort of gray area of being a little bit too different from the original where it felt kind of awkward, and at the same time not really being able to make it their own. So while I did really enjoy how the members showcased their talent, the entire performance and the entire stage wasn't my favorite. So next up we have Brave Girls, and I feel like I probably put them higher than most people would. I think like usual, it was somewhat obvious that Brave Girls are kind of lacking behind the rest when it comes to their dancing capabilities. The choreography did look a little bit awkward at times, and I think if their execution was better, it would have really enhanced the performance. However, the reason that I put Brave Girls pretty high is that I feel like all of the choices that they made were very smart. Out of all of the remixes that we heard in round 2, I think Brave Girls definitely had the best one, and nobody else made the song their own in the way that Brave Girls did. I love the way that they played with the tempo of the song, generally keeping keeping a slower pace than the original, but also having moments where it speeds up and slows down even more than usual. I think the rearrangement of Mask fit the concept that they were going for perfectly, and it almost had a sort of Great Gatsby kind of feel to it. I know they probably had a backtrack to help them, but even though they were still recovering from their sickness, they still sounded great both in the recording and in the live singing moments that we got, and even though their dancing wasn't the best, I still think that they had really amazing stage presence, and it was definitely a step up from the first round. Nothing that they did felt out of place, and even though we saw all of their worries that they had for the performance in the introductory scenes, it felt like they had so much confidence during this stage, and that's why I liked it so much. I think my favorite part was when all of the Brave Bros money started falling from the air. It was super climactic, and it was definitely one of the best quote-unquote finales that we've seen in any of these performances. And at the end of the day, while there were certain parts that I wasn't the biggest fan of, such as the dance break that I thought looked really weird, I have more positive feelings for this performance than I do negative, which I can't say about a lot of the others, which is what put them this high on the ranking for me. Just like in her round 1 performance, Hyolyn was essentially perfect here, and like the rest of you probably, with each new episode, it's seeming more and more likely that she might actually win the entire competition, at least to me. Watching Hyolyn's performance back, I just thought everything was amazing and stellar and incredible and jaw-dropping. Like, how do you make the bridge of So What even better than the original? That's like an impossible job, and somehow she still did it. Her vocals were insane, and I think she's proven that she is the best vocalist on this entire show. I don't think anybody else is as consistent or as powerful as she is, and I'm just still thinking about all of the vocal ad-libs that she was doing. Like, seriously, that combination of the bridge and final chorus actually changed my plane of existence. To be honest, at the beginning I felt like her lack of fan base was going to prevent her from being anywhere close to winning, but now, like the rest of you, she proved me wrong, and I hope she wins the entire thing. She was my pick going into the show, and she's still my pick now. So yeah, now we're going to be talking about Loona, and I have genuinely nothing bad to say about this performance. First of all, I just want to congratulate my girl Hyunjin for finally getting some lines and executing them pretty perfectly if I do say so myself. Despite having such a large amount of members with such varying levels of talent between them, none of them stood out in a bad way, which I thought was very impressive. And to be completely honest, out of all of the Queendom, Kingdom, Road to Kingdom, and Queendom 2 performances, this is probably the most creative. WJSN introduced us to costume changes in their introductory performance, but Loona took that idea and knocked it out of the park by having what I think is almost half the members doing a costume change at some point, and they just made it look so freaking fun. I was seriously smiling at my screen so much when I was watching it. This was also just such a smart song choice. Out of all of the Sistar and Hyolyn songs that they could have done, this was definitely the best. Like, no other options would have been better for them, and you have to commend them for just being smart. While it wasn't the most intense or unique story that I've ever seen before in K-pop, Loona's stage absolutely had the best storytelling, and similar to Hyolyn in round 1, Loona are proving that you don't need to have the most intense storyline, and you don't need to take things too seriously if you want to win. Despite not officially participating in round 1, Loona have really stepped up to the plate and have proven that they're a competitor to win, and I cannot wait to see what they put out next, and I hope that they can even top this performance, but I don't know if anybody can top this performance, so we'll see. And that concludes this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and let me know what your ranking of the Queendom 2 performances or in the comment section below. I know it's probably not going to happen, but let's try to keep it civil in the comment section, and if you enjoyed my video, consider leaving a like, sharing, or even subscribing. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.